Governments all over the world are trying to get a handle on AI, but for them, it's not as simple as just downloading a new app. Nope, it's more like a high-stakes tightrope walk over a canyon filled with public trust, privacy, and security issues. So how on earth do you build a roadmap for a tool this powerful with everything going completely wrong? Well, one government decided to write the book on it, literally.
And that brings us to the big question, why? Why does a government even need a playbook for AI? Well, because when you're a government, it's not just about being more efficient. It's about serving citizens and, crucially, upholding public trust. A single mistake, one bad algorithm can have huge consequences. And that's the exact challenge Taiwan's government decided to tackle head-on.
But before we can really appreciate the solution they came up with, we have to understand the problem. The government did a deep dive and found some pretty serious growing pains that were stopping them from actually using AI to make things better.
And the issues they found were, honestly, surprisingly fundamental. First off, a basic lack of knowledge. You can't use a tool if you don't even know what it can do, right? Officials just couldn't see the potential. Second, whenever a team did have a successful project, it was basically a secret. Those valuable lessons learned weren't being shared with anyone else. And finally, you had all these high-level policies and rules, but absolutely no practical, step-by-step guide on how to actually start an AI project.
So, to tackle these pain points directly, the Ministry of Digital Affairs created something really comprehensive. Let's dive into what they call the Public Sector AI Playbook. Now, this isn't just another one of those dense government reports that gathers dust on a shelf. It's designed to be a practical roadmap. Its whole purpose is to demystify the tech and empower public servants, giving them the confidence and the tools they need to turn an AI idea into a real-world project. And it starts with the absolute basics.
For instance, the playbook makes a really crucial distinction right at the beginning. On one side, you have your traditional AI. You can think of it like a super analyst that's amazing at finding patterns and making predictions. On the other side, you've got generative AI, which is more like a creative partner. It actually makes brand new stuff. Understanding this difference is absolutely key because picking the right tool is the first step. But as we're about to see, these new creative tools come with some very unique risks.
And one of the biggest risks with generative AI is a weird phenomenon called hallucination. This is when the AI just confidently makes things up. It sounds totally plausible, but it's completely factually wrong. Now, for a government where accuracy is everything, you can see why this is a massive problem. So managing this risk is a top priority, and the playbook lays out exactly how to do that.
So, with those basic concepts out of the way, the playbook gets into the really important stuff. How do you actually get an AI project off the ground and turn a problem into a real-life project?
To do that, it lays out this really clear 5-stage life cycle. You start by assessing the scene to make sure you're solving a problem that actually needs solving. Then you launch the project, build the model, and deploy it. But, and this is so important, it doesn't stop there. The last step is to continuously track its performance and manage risks long after its life. This whole structure is designed to stop people from doing AI for AI's sake and to keep the focus on getting real results.
Part of that process means picking the right technical approach. So the playbook breaks down 4 main types of machine learning. For example, if you've got a ton of clean, organized data, like historical housing prices, you'd probably use supervised learning to make predictions. But what if your data is a total mess, and you're just looking for hidden patterns, say how different citizens use public services? For that, you'd use unsupervised learning. The playbook maps each method to a mission, which is just brilliant for helping officials make the right call from day one.
But look, getting the technology right, that's only half the battle. For any government AI project to actually work, the public has to trust it. And that's why this playbook puts a huge focus on the principles of trustworthy AI.
The whole thing is built on these core principles. For example, any system has to be fair, no bias. It has to be transparent so people can actually understand how it works. There has to be clear accountability for what it does. And of course, it's got to be secure and protect citizen privacy. And these aren't just suggestions. They all serve one single vital purpose: to make sure that these systems are helpful, not harmful. I mean, these aren't just buzzwords. They're the guardrails. They are what separates a helpful public tool from a harmful, unaccountable black box. And to enforce this, the government uses a pretty smart risk-based approach.
And this is where it gets really interesting. They classify AI into 4 risk levels. Some things, like social scoring systems, are just an unacceptable risk. Banned. Done. High-risk systems, like in law enforcement, are allowed but have to meet incredibly strict rules. Then you have limited-risk tools like a chatbot, which just needs to tell you it's an AI. And finally, low-risk stuff, like your email spam filter, is pretty much left to self-regulation.
So, you've got the principles, you've got the risk levels, but how do you actually prove a high-risk AI system is safe before you let it interact with the public? Well, you test it. You test it rigorously.
So here's a peek at the government's automated testing platform. Now don't worry that the text isn't in English, the process it shows is what's universal. An agency logs in, they pick a test they want to run, like for accuracy or fairness, and the platform communicates with the AI through an API, which is basically a digital messenger. It fires off test questions, gets the AI's answers, and shows the final score. That green check mark you see means this model passed. It's a concrete, repeatable way to make sure those abstract principles are actually being followed.
So, after going through all of this, the problems, the playbook, the principles, the testing, what's the big takeaway from Taiwan's approach? What does this all add up to?
It really all comes down to this. The technology is actually the easy part. The hard part, the part that really matters, is building a framework of trust around that technology. It's about making sure every single AI system is fair, transparent, accountable, and at the end of the day, that it serves the human beings it was built to help.
And that leaves us with one final question to think about. A playbook like this is, without a doubt, a powerful foundation for responsible innovation. But as this technology evolves at a dizzying speed, is a static guide ever really enough? Or is this just the first step in a constant, never-ending journey of adaptation, regulation, and public conversation?